know that you have a pretty decent sized portfolio of companies that you're investing in.
I'm willing to open my network because you have a mission in this world that's very, very important. And if I can introduce you to a couple of people that might help accelerate, I'm helpful to do it.
You're in a variety of different spaces all the time.
Correct.
Like you're in climate, regenerative ag, talent tech, all these different ecosystems that you're part of.
I think our brains have such big capacity and you don't realize it's there. And so there's like little unlocks that can happen.
The question around whether a founder is by default a leader.
That's a superpower for leaders.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bay House Creative Podcast. My name's Locke, and today I'm here with Sean Kelley, the founder of Sage and Sea Ventures. More importantly, Sean has been a friend and a mentor of mine for a handful of years now, and he's also a huge proponent and advocate for the veteran community. So, Sean, welcome to the podcast. Great having you here, man.
Man, Locke, what a dream, actually, to be here. And my first episode in an official podcast studio. It's just a joy to be here and look forward to sharing some stories today.
Yeah, so this is definitely going to be the first and not the last for you, because I'm sure after this, folks are going to want you on their podcast. So this is great. Let's dive right in, right, Sean? So you've had seasons of real operational authority throughout your career, right?
Yeah.
Like running large teams, building systems at scale. Today, though, much of your work centers on influence.
Yeah.
You're advising, investing, shaping ecosystems at large. And so I'd like to start there, okay? So what's changed, Sean, in terms of how you make decisions when your role is to influence rather than to own processes and procedures?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You know, I'm a student of leadership. I think I probably was, back from going to college, reading books about great leaders over time. And there's this leadership theory that I think has remained consistent actually from when I owned large organizations to now as essentially an influencer, which is sort of the difference between personal and positional power. And, kind of as the leadership theory goes, position power is like, I'm the boss, do what I say. And I think people actually have that paradigm and belief that like military leaders are that way, like my way or the highway, or do it. But I was always sort of like, I think if people love your respect of them as humans and you're interested in them, and you sort of point at a North Star and then say, like, I think this is where we want to go, set clear communication, rationale for your decisions, people like run through the wall for you with you never saying you're the boss, right? People talk about like inverse pyramids. I never kind of got goofy like that. But I always felt like relationships were really key to me. And now I know that like that's a superpower for leaders. Now that I work with startups, maybe the hardest part about it is I'm sort of like an insider outsider. That's the biggest part that's changed. So when I led big teams, I always led like majority from a personal power standpoint, build a relationship, understand this person's motivators, like what makes this person tick? How can I get them to just give me a little bit more? So sometimes it's a cheerlead, sometimes it's a, man, that wasn't good enough, a little nudge, but it was always respectful. And rarely did I drop the hammer and be like, okay, I'm kind of done. Like I'm the boss, clear out, just do it, right? I'm kind of done with it. But like as an advisor, sometimes investor in companies, I basically have to tell people what I think, hopefully have built a bond and connection and like influence their thinking. But in the end, like it's their thing to do. Sometimes it's hard for me, honestly, because I'm like, I want to get in a little deeper, maybe dive in and row a little harder with them, but it's not like my place because I'm outside of the actual structure. Same thing, I've been on like NGO leadership boards. I have a passion around the Crohn's and colitis community and sort of like, I share my opinion, but like they're running their thing. And all I can try to do is be influential in the way that I approach my sincere connection with them to say, I honor what you're doing, even in our connection, right? You're the owner, you're the founder. I actually understand that, but I'm going to tell you something that may be hard to hear right now, and I'm going to just lay it on you and say, like, I think you need to turn left and you're going right. And, sometimes people go right. And I'm like, I hope it works out.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, and you didn't exactly use this word, but accountability comes up.
Yes.
And I'm curious, how does accountability change when you're an influencer? Does it change in the way it's personified?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, in systems when you run the team or like you run your studio, and even for me, I've got certain metrics that I track, and like am I making progress against those metrics? When you don't have sort of shared metrics, I think maybe that's the way to do it. So like a lot of times it'll be, I know a lot of people, right? So people are like, hey man, can you introduce me to this person? I'm like, I don't know. They're my friends. They're people I respect. Like, why do you want to meet them? And let me ask them if they're okay. But like I start a tracker together and say, okay, great. You want me to make some connections with and for you. Let's talk about how many we want to make, so that it's a shared goal, even though it's across like an organizational boundary. And being honest in communication when people like two-way, like, hey, I dropped a ball. I need to like own up to it. I told you I was going to get 5 intros out. I didn't do it. I'm just like swamped, whatever. I mean, it may be a bad reason, but I got to like own up to it. And then also I got to turn around to people that I'm working with and be like, hey man, we actually had a goal to blow it up together. And I feel like you didn't show up with me. I got to know where you're going. You didn't tell me you pivoted strategy or you had a big announcement. I didn't even know that was coming. And now people are calling me like, oh, wow, this is a new thing. And I'm like, I don't want to act like I never like to pass the buck, but sometimes, so it's building the conversation around two-way accountability where it's across organizational lines. So it's like, shared goals, I think, is a common thing in organizations, and maybe even like in big orgs, where like I ran talent, somebody ran leadership development, another person ran the business, trying to tie threads across, where this person's writing a review for that person. I don't have really any influence other than to be like, hey, but like if we lift it up and say, hey, why don't we try to do a couple things together this year, and you tell your team and I'm going to tell my team, and then we're at least going in the same direction, even if we come together occasionally. I feel like that's probably, kind of how I approach that accountability topic. But a lot of it is because it's relationships, man. Like, especially for me, once I decide to get committed, like I feel accountable to the human person that is, I consider a friend and a colleague. I want to live up to that commitment just because it's personal then. Right.
Yeah, that's insightful to me because, to be honest, the word accountability brings to mind something that's more like a one-way street. You're accountable to me because I'm your boss. And when you describe accountability in your world, it's a two-way street.
Totally.
And it seems very natural for you to say that, but I would tend to say that most of society doesn't see accountability that way, which I think is what makes you stand out as a leader and an influencer, right?
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's, you show up for me, I show up for you. I mean, it's like how communities work. It's how citizenship works, right? Like you're my neighbor, I'm your neighbor. Can we find things that we can be committed to together? And even if it's just hard honesty, I don't like tough love. I mean, I got some tough love growing up, but I learned tough love because my mom's a coal miner's daughter, right? Like we got straight from my parents, but this idea that we can be respectfully honest with each other, but also just, build accountability with each other, I think is important. Yeah, it's like baseline good human, decency, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, speaking of being human is something that you do very well and something that you extend to the people that you influence. And I know that you have a pretty decent sized portfolio of companies that you're invested in, which means there's a lot of people at large to connect with, to talk to mentor, to grow, to be accountable to. Right. So if influence is the currency now, your currency, then it stands to reason that how you choose to spend it probably matters more so than ever before, just because of your lack of time, right, and the lack of resources. So you're around all these folks, founders, leaders, all at different inflection points,
Yeah.
right? Different
Yeah.
points in their journey. So which makes it more difficult. And so your capital that you're investing in is not just financial, it's time, like I said, it's attention, it's recognizing patterns that you might have seen elsewhere that you want to either bring into that organization or take away from that organization. So when you're meeting someone early, like what are you actually paying attention to in order to decide where and when to spend that energy on that person or that organization?
Man. It's interesting because I love meeting people and learning about their visions and dreams. And so I kind of have to actually, my wife will say like I wag, I'm like a golden retriever or something, or yeah, like I get excited quickly. Now that I have this portfolio and I have like I have some, investments from 10 years ago before I even knew kind of what I was even doing. I was like, it's a friend, they're doing a thing. Or like, I don't know, may not be smart, but I love this thing. I look for, does this person convey to me a mission that they have in the world to change something important, right? Like, and does that mission align to things that I might know something about or care deeply about? Because sometimes people have a mission. Like we talked about this, we were at this veteran investment conference, and there's just like a lot of things where I'm like, I mean, sure, that's probably awesome. I don't know much about it. That person seems amazing, but I don't even know if that has to happen in the world, right? Like, honestly, why do we have to invent more stuff to kill people? Just to be blunt. I'm like, that's like, I get defense. You and I both know that as military leaders, like, but there's an element where I'm like, it's just too much. And so I think about like, are you inventing a medicine that's going to help something I care about? Like I talked to somebody, who's like, I wasn't that interested. He's like, hey, I'm a cancer survivor. I helped cure myself with food, and now I've created a system around it to help people understand how to eat when they're sick. And I was like, you know what, man? I would love to help you. I don't think I'm like your perfect guy, but I can give you a discrete amount of time. So I think for me, it's being honest up front. Like I don't want you to waste your time thinking I'm going to write a check and help your company, but I'm willing to open my network because you have a mission in this world that's very, very important. And if I can introduce you to a couple people that might help accelerate, I'm helpful to do it. But like, I need to see the mission, and it needs to matter things that I think I can help with. Plus, I think it's so important that I have to lean in. And then I really look at the character of that person, right? I look at like, do I think this person's like a leader of good intent? I don't really think so much like, hey, if I write a check to this person, I'm going to get like a ton of money back. I mean, I probably would like to get some money back someday, but I think the more important thing is I have a little bit of discretionary investment capital to accelerate that person's mission. And if my endorsement gets them to go further faster, they're a good character, they're a great leader. I think of them as somebody that like I can be a door opener. And so I've worked with veteran founders, minority founders, women founders that haven't had access to venture capital or even people that will write them a check. I'm like, I'm willing to roll the dice really early on a great idea with a great leader and just look for that like grit and resilience and like this person. Some people say chip on the shoulder. I don't think I need people that need to prove something. I don't look for that, but I look for conviction to like, this is so important to me that I determine that person is going to really work hard to make that a reality. So I'm going to bet. And I test a little bit for like, are they going to listen to me? Sometimes there's pressure. Like, I don't have all the answers, but I might read a deck or tab and be like, are you sure that like, that's the thing? And if they're like, I mean, that's a good point. I don't know. I'm like, awesome. They're a little bit open. They're a little bit vulnerable. They don't have all the answers. They're not overselling me. Like one of the craziest things is I've seen so many where it's like, give me $10,000 a day and you have $1 million in like 10 years. And I'm like, dude, I've seen that chart. I think that's in some MBA deck. You just borrowed that thing. and I'm not a math. I'm fine at math. I'm fine at all this stuff. But I'm like, I'm not going to go push all the buttons and like go through the financials and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm going to be like, I actually trust this person. And it's usually not like the first time I meet him. Sometimes I have that like, whoa, I just met like somebody. I just got a hook on to like being a helper because I mean, I feel like I had that with you, immediate connect. Like you're a really special human in the world and you have some very interesting passions to do things that are important. And I'm like, I just got to be part of this dude's circle. I don't even know what that means. Maybe a friend, maybe I can make some connections, maybe I can invest in the thing, but that's not always the case. So sometimes I'm like, I call it like just walking the path. I'm like, hey, I am interested enough that I can give you 30 minutes or an hour every week for the next month or two. Maybe magic will happen. Maybe you'll hate me. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point. It's easier said than done, right? You're looking for someone who is a person of character, who has a strong, valid mission in life.
Yes.
Or plural, maybe, missions in life. Have you ever misread those signals in someone?
I won't oversell them like big-hearted or anything, but you remember the movie Rudy, you know, the guy gets on the football team. I think I love an underdog story, and I definitely have had scenarios where I have seen, I'll call them yellow flags. Like I had concerns, but I loved the story so much, like the human story, like this person came from a certain, you know, story, like whatever it was. And I'm like, man, I think I'm given the benefit of the doubt. And the hardest part is then just breaking it off, right? To say, hey, I had like, I'll give you a real life scenario without naming names, right? Where I was like, all right, I want in, I'll be a part of it. I don't even know. It was early on before now I consider myself like a real angel investor or something. Like I've done enough but it was very early. I didn't even know how to ask, could I write a check? I was like awkward about it, but I was like, man, I think I would like to do something. And then like this dude just kept blowing me off. Like I would schedule my time. So again, two-way accountability. I got an hour, like don't even show up. And then like email, call me like, yo, and it's like passing me off, or I got to catch him at 11 o'clock at night on the email. And it could have actually, this person's business went on to become a unicorn. Like I probably could have made a lot of money, but I just was like, hey man, I'm in this for the relationship too. It's actually important for me to have a two-way connection. And I sort of had a sense early on that like maybe he'd blow me off. I was like, I mean, I don't want to do like, I like money and I like to have nice clothes. I don't need to be a gazillionaire. I just need to take care of my family and be kind to my, you know, extended people, but buy some organic food. I missed a rocket ship because I was like, hey, I can't have somebody that's going to just blow me off. And I'm sorry, you're brilliant, you're smart, you're probably going to be amazing. This was way before I knew he was going to be a unicorn. And other people might say, just suck it up, bro. But, and I had that sense early on, but I just wanted to be in the mix so bad that I was like, wow, just go along. But I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do this. Like, I want to respect my own, just myself and my space. And, you know, that hour for me, I could have been with my family. I could have been with another founder. I could have been doing some art. I don't know. I could have been just working out. And so I do look at it as like that hour of time in my life, I'm never getting back. And I want to have that space about it. So I'm a little better now to try to just say no quick. And I check that part of my heart and be like, yeah, I would like to be helpful to the person, but I don't want to walk down a path. Like the conference we were just at, I met a few people, you know, and I was like, oh, I just want to give this bro a hug, but I cannot get sucked into the vortex right now. Because I mean, like, honestly, like, I mean, you're kind, you're a great listener. Like, I'm not a paid counselor. I don't actually know how to be that person. And so when somebody needs to just, you know, just to get a holistic help for their life, to get it together, like I can't be the Rudy story. I'll tell you one more anecdote, right? When I started doing veteran advocacy work years ago at Microsoft, 2001, man, I was still trying to get veterans through I'll call it like the elitist door of the Silicon Valley. Like tech companies did not want to hire veterans. It was true, right? It's still difficult at times. And man, I was trying to change the world hard on the sleeve, duking it out with anybody that like dared to say no. And my wife was like being kind about it. And she's like, I mean, can you just be happy with like one win? Like, look at all the people you've looked at their resume and they've gotten a great job. Like, you're trying to change the world, man. Like, is there a point where you could just be happy every single time one little win happens? And I think about that all the time because I can zoom out really quick to the big thing. And like, there is a gift, like maybe that hug in the hallway or that moment where the person can actually pivot them in the right direction. And trying to figure out, like, you know, when's the moment to say, hey, I'm not the guy to like help that person, or man, I should just spend a little time with them because that's actually a gift as a human, right? Maybe a longer story to your, you know, question about how you figure out like that, you know, when you're yes, no, and have doubts. But I think it kind of ties together this idea. It's not a perfect, like I don't have a formula, spreadsheet. I don't run people through an AI algorithm thingamabobber, but I get better at just gracefully saying, hey, I just don't think I can help you. I would like to stay in touch. And, you know, if there's a specific thing you want my help with, then, you know, reach out and I can commit to at least get back to you the best I can in a world where, you know, spam-o-ram is hitting us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, what you just shared, I think transcends into the concept of leadership as well. You know, there's no formula for producing a leader. And you've talked a lot and you've described leadership often as a form of service, right? Where the goal isn't to control somebody, but you're enabling others to reach these destinations in their lives, right? And make decisions that are truly theirs, that they own and that they've come up with on their own based off of your advice or your mentorship.
Right.
Right. So when you're advising or when you're investing in an organization, how do you think about adding that kind of value without over-directing them or just taking over their work?
I'm laughing because I'm like, is this feedback, Locke? You think I'm trying to run Bay House Creative? I'm like, do you have something to tell me? Because I don't know a thing about what you do, bro. Yeah, I think there's a very lucky place I'm in, which is that I'm liberated from working inside a big. I feel like it was hard for me to work in giant orgs for a long time. It was just my personality and like who I am. And so I actually feel unencumbered from what I call like operational ownership. And I distance myself. Like, so I learned in early reps with some founders, like it's not easy to come back to a second or third conversation and be like, I mean, guys, like we have talked through this. And I don't like to prove people wrong, but I'm like, I feel like we're revisiting conversation over and over and approach it more as like a true mentor. Like you said, like one of my favorite quotes you essentially summarize, it's like unattributed, but it's like, you know, the greatest gift a leader can give is just, you know, time, listening, advice, so that people can arrive at conclusions that are really theirs. You give them a little bit of something that unlocks the thing that is theirs, truly. Sometimes I'm like, probably, I have to admit, in the recruiting world, because I know that world really well, sometimes I'm like, just let me jump in the seat. And I've been tempted. I've been at the door. They're like, you should just be my CHRO. I'm like, well, I've never been one of those. But man, and I would like sit down with my wife, and then I'm like, dude, I do not want to, you know, because startup world, I don't want to be back in a 40, 50, 60 hour, like wake up every day, It's nicer for me to say, I mean, I don't have that pressure. And it was more of a choice to liberate myself from that. But because I truly feel like I fall in love with the founder people that I work with, where I'm like, I do feel super accountable. And sometimes I am tempted to say like, put me in, coach. Like, can I roll a little harder for you? Can I do more than maybe I logically should commit to? And I constantly need to rewind myself back because I know I'm like not my best self when I'm under that hyper demand of like daily after 30 plus years of doing it. I'm like, I want thoughtful delivery on really specific things. And once I get too stacked, and if I had that heavy weight of like most, CEOs, founders, leaders of big things, you wake up, think about it, you go to bed, think about it. And I'm like, no. So I don't feel like I have that hard of a time. And because I'm not investing going TikTok 5 years, man,
Yeah.
like where's my 10X, or like you hear these VCs like, give me the 100X. I've never in my wildest dreams sat across from a founder and thought, I'm gonna get 100X out of this bro or this sister, And even when I don't even know if I could do the math, I'm like, I don't even know what 100X is, but I feel like I want moonshots for humanity, right? I want the moonshot that's going to change the system. That's why I do my work in the veteran community still. Like that system still needs to dramatically change. And the moonshot would be, can we make it better for exiters to find better jobs and to have, more holistically fulfilled lives? And so to me, that's a moonshot that has nothing to do with like financials.
So I've never heard you say that before, but that explains the paradox known as Sean Kelley to me. Right? Because here's what's interesting about you. On one hand, you're not getting yourself back into the grind. You're not doing those 40, 50, 60-hour weeks and, the things that startup folks do.
Right.
Yet you're in a variety of different spaces all the time.
Correct.
Like you're in climate, regenerative ag, talent tech, all these different ecosystems that you're part of, which demands your brain to continually switch gears in many ways, right? Because you're thinking about this and you're trying to learn that. And that to me is consuming. Yeah. Right? It's something that you're that requires you to continually think and process and filter out all these ideas. And so when you're in these different kinds of systems, are there patterns that you're able to recognize to see whether someone or a group of people are actually aligned towards a certain mission or the mission that they're proclaiming to be part of? Is that difficult for you, or is that something relatively easy to do at this point?
A lot of self-talk. Like, I'll say the pressure I feel is sometimes I get cold intros. Like, I'm invested in Cold Step. Matt and Kevin, founders, were cold intro. And they're like brilliant, driven, doing something I have no clue about. And like call one, video one, they're like, what do you think? And I'm like, can you send me the paper? And so you're like, right. Like, I'm like, okay, whole new rabbit hole. So that's like one scenario where I'm like, I have no idea, but I'm so drawn into them as human beings and the founder of the mission that I'm like, I'm very curious. Like, I'm a curious learner. I would say that's like something I am. And I'm also unafraid to just dive into a new place. And so I'm like, send me the thing. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, why not just the deck? Do you have more? Do you have a book you want me to read? So I end up reading a lot of books. Or do you, like, they sent me a 60-page audit report and I'm like, okay, I'll read the whole report. Like you said, it can be consuming for my brain, but also it's just energizing because I'm learning. I love learning. I think part of the pressure is, so I'm pivoting to climate where I don't know anything, so I have to learn a ton. But I still feel like a superpower is I connect people, and I've met a lot of different people through my whole career and life. And so I immediately see patterns around interesting, like, I didn't know these people are in this space. Like, I should get on the phone and be like, man, I didn't know you pivoted over to do climate tech. Like, why did you do that? What are you doing? And so I can start to build my knowledge of how my own network has shifted to this thing and do, interesting. There's like something here that I should just keep learning, keep networking, keep consuming. And all of a sudden then I'm like, oh my gosh, I know a lot more about this 1 year later. In the space of like HR technology, where, I was running big recruiting orgs, when I was in the big seat, people are always pitching me, use my tool, my technology, and my team kept me well informed. And even though I wasn't a user of most of the tools, I had a general sense of the ecosystem. It's a lot harder now because I don't spend time making those decisions. And like, why would I need to know how big recruiting tools work? now. I don't have any use for them. And so I do find I've got to be like, I have to ask for grace sometimes where people are like, hey, can I talk to you about this? And I'm like, can you just refresh me a little bit? I don't even, like, what happened in this space? And so luckily, again, through our military network, like I have some friends in the military network who are doing really cool stuff in like agentic recruiting. And I'm like, can you just like have somebody do the 101 session with me again? So I think it's willingness to admit like, I don't really know anymore. Like I wouldn't know how to evaluate that thing because it's so new. But if you help me learn a little, then I can put it back in. I'm like, this would have solved a big problem for me. Or, I don't know. I feel like you're running down a path where, so I was on a call with a brand new company that I just started working with. And I was like, I remember 15 years ago, and I won't name the company. I'm like, I think they tried the exact same thing, guys. And what I remember is candidates got really tired of it. And I said, if I were you, I'd like pull that bad boy up and maybe it's still alive. And they were like, oh my gosh, man, that was magic. So it's this, I think our brains have such big capacity and you don't realize it's there. And so there's like little unlocks that can happen, but you do have to, like I've blown it on a couple calls. Like when I first started advising, I had a company that was going to pay me a bunch of money to, like goofy. You just can't look people in the eye and you're like, you want to pay me that much for just a few hours? I'm like, okay, because I don't know what I'm doing yet. But then you get on the call and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel this immense pressure. Like that was like a $500 hour and I told them nothing. And so then I flipped to a little bit of an overfunction and like, I'm sure this dude to this day really won't converse with me because I sort of I was like, okay, we're going Ted because I just think you're wrong, which was a completely horrible like leadership thing. But I was like, okay, I got to prove some value here because I can't get on another call and just listen. So I think that's like consultants feel that pressure. And then they make up junk and they I wasn't willing to make up junk, but I distinctly remember getting off that call and I sent him a long apology note. Because he's from the military, network that we all know well. And I was just like, you know what, man? I was overbearing. And I think I felt so much pressure to help tell you the path that I didn't just listen to where you're at on the path, where I could have been helpful, right? Back to that leadership philosophy of like, my job is to listen and hear and be like, you already have the idea, dude. You don't need me to tell you. Go for it. Or encouragement.
Yeah, that lived experience and all that time that you've garnered, sometimes in the big seats, sometimes as an advisor, and in different situations, what you bring to the table now with all those aggregated and combined experiences, I think it's invaluable.
Yeah.
Because even in the age of AI, you can't just go and ask AI to somehow send you or give you that type of nuanced understanding of your business, or even if you had the best, most relevant tools today, that's just not something that a technology can give you. It's something a human being and to your point, a human brain is able to construe.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, our mutual friend Eddie Pate, he's a big-hearted networker, and he met somebody who had just pivoted into a big talent acquisition job, and he's like, hey, like, could you just give her an hour? And I was like, yeah, for you, man, anything, bro. And I get on the call, and within 30 minutes, this one clicked. I was like, I have literally lived your life. I said, hey, the things you've described, it's like I just flashed back to 2013 when I led cloud recruiting for Microsoft. I'm like, I'm just a dude you met 30 minutes ago, but I could actually help you rewrite your org chart right now and accelerate probably a year of work for you. And so like, decide if that's actually something that matters to you. But like sometimes, you have this moment where you're like, I've literally lived, like she described, leadership team, business, like what she's trying to scale. I knew the math of the recruiting formulas. I was like, I could probably write your recruiting plan for you and send it to you like in 45 minutes.
I mean, that's actually a really good segue to my next question, because I wanted to bring you back into the role of being an executive for a large company, right? Sitting in that big seat, like you mentioned. So, because I think from that perspective, you're able to really see some of the pitfalls that folks are getting themselves into as they're growing their organizations to potentially be that big.
Yeah.
Like, to you, what's there to look out for? Like, what's fragile about growing a large organization?
I guess I don't know what the world is like to lead like a half human, half agentic AI org, which future leaders need to figure out. I think there's probably some technical things that I don't understand yet, but I'll listen to people for a while and then we'll figure out what that means. First, it's just, humans can only take so much, and the, teams are made of humans. And so how do you, especially if you're scaling fast, how do you make it not feel out of control for people? So like, I'm a big believer on, like in my biggest teams, it's every time you bring people together, you point at the North Star, mission, vision, values. Like, this is why we're here, because people forget, because it feels chaotic. And you're like, this has not changed. So you kind of communicate consistency. Like, hey, I know it feels like we went through a lot. Nothing's changed. This is our mission. This is our vision. This is how we operate together. And here's our goals that we committed to. And like, those might change, but like the North Star is not changing. So just don't forget, like, we're not flying without a sail in the ocean or whatever, whatever your analogy is. It's like, no, actually we're right on course. It just feels a little rocky right now. The other one is like, for me, I call it like back at Microsoft, when I first got there, they always did a survey. Now it's surveys all the time. It was like a annual survey, and they had this category called My Manager. And I just focused in on the my manager things. Like, does my boss treat me respectfully? Does my boss communicate clear goals? And I was like, okay, Sean's theory on any scaling org is the my manager pyramid scheme, which is really like the org as it scales, the pyramid is just getting bigger, right? And so you have essentially little teams of my manager squads. And so like, my manager of managers is just a manager of 10 people, and director is a director of 10 senior managers. And so like, each one of those people has to be a good my manager. And so I spent time sort of in the middle of the pyramid. That's why I remind people is, as the pyramid grows, the front line is out of touch more with the top line. So they might lose sight of the vision, mission, values. And so you have to find ways to communicate through all layers. It's like one of the things I started doing, I recognized that when I was at Amazon, we were scaling like rocket ship. My team grew from 200 to over 1,000 very fast. My personal team, which is kind of a startup story, right? Like, demands were crazy, everything's changing. But I was like, okay, so the way to keep control is to build confidence that everyone knows where we're going, what we need to deliver. There's affirmation and support for that. There's elimination of barriers. But like, I realized that we had hired so many new managers that like, there were layers of like, they weren't managing from the same playbook. So I started hosting a personal all manager meeting. And I just taught basic leadership through conversation, storytelling. Sometimes I have and I would be like, okay, let's debrief it. And I started to normalize how we led together, right? People still have room to be individuals, but I was like, there's a way we're going to lead well. It's going to be respectful. It's going to be human-centered. It's going to be inclusive. We're not going to yell and scream. We're going to have goals. We're going to deliver, and we're going to ask for help. And it took a little while, but that was a game changer when you knew people were like working from the same playbook. So I think that sometimes founders forget, and I've reminded some of my founders, like, every time you bring a new person into the org, it's a new team. You do have to sort of go back and reboot everybody. Like, you insert a new director, that director group's now different. We have to bring that person in. We need to welcome into the circle of leadership. We need to normalize, like, learn from their experiences because they're from the outside. So hopefully we learn something. And we also have to say, hey, here's how we lead together so that we can quickly move out. And people forget that. Like, they think senior people are just going to come in and rock and roll. And I'm like, nope, they need hugs. They need affirmation. They need goals. So I'll ask a founder, like, okay, you want to hire your first big box on your org chart. what do you want them to do the first 90 days? Oh, they'll figure it out. I'm like, that's a dumb answer, bro. Or sister. Yeah. That's just not a good answer. Like, because they know what they did, but they need to know what you need them to do. And so slow down, go to the beginning. They're also just a human. They might be the smartest, most accomplished, whatever, but they still need to know what their goals are. They need to see, like, it's your company. What do you want done? How do you want them to act? So you got to kind of think about culture and all those things. So,
that, and we'll wrap this up here because I could talk to you about this for weeks on end, and we probably will.
And I have to get the gas.
Yeah.
So,
but you bring up something I've thought about for a long time now, which is the question around whether a founder is by default a leader, and what you have seen as you're developing these organizations regarding that.
So I'll say I believe that any human can be a leader if they're willing to be a learner, and be humble and vulnerable and commit to taking care of people. So I think, no, not all founders are leader people. Certainly not like in a global, multicultural world, not inclusive leaders. I've been lucky because I picked folks that I think are at least on the path, and that I feel like I can be a helpful partner and thought partner and mentor to them. I like that part of my, how can you be a better version of you as a leader, reflective, two-way partner. And I don't know if there's enough emphasis on it. I mean, I think there's probably data that says at a certain point, founders sometimes can't scale. Actually, Rachel Comer, the founder of Guild Education, now Guild, had a great podcast about her own journey as like a less experienced leader trying to lead this like rocket ship company, and like how did she decide how to build out her team. And I share that with founders sometimes to say, hey, if you want to you have to be a different human at 0 to 1, 1 to 2, pre-seed, seed, Series A, crossing through million, 10 million, 100 million ARR. Like, you're a different company, and you actually need to be a different leader. How do you delegate? How do you learn these things? And if you're not pivoting and learning and taking on coaching and being willing to hire people in that are smarter than you, that's probably maybe a blind spot for some leaders or some founders, because they had the big idea, and it's acknowledging at some point, your idea can be the true moonshot if you bring in people way smarter than you. And people cliche talk about it, but when you have people smarter than you, they ask you hard questions. They poke holes in your ideas. And some founder people, it's their baby and they can't hack it, right? And so I think I think the potential's there for every founder to be a leader, but like challenges you and I faced, not everybody rises to the occasion. And probably, when you debrief the large number of startups, at least, that fail, probably pretty good. I bet on character, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. If people weren't willing to be learners as leaders, they might get lucky. I mean, there's a lot of really rich people I don't think are great leaders, I mean. Maybe that's the problem. Yeah, that's I think leaders are leaders need to be readers and constantly expanding their minds and stuff. But anyway.
Yeah, I'd love to delve into that leadership journey, and really break down the different phases of leadership growth and development as a company grows. And obviously, like you said, the leader needs to grow with their organization.
Yes.
But we'll do that another time.
Okay.
I just want to thank you for being here and sharing this conversation with us and with the folks that are going to be consuming this knowledge and this advice. So thanks so much.
Oh my gosh, what a gift, brother. Thank you for this time.
It's been great. And everybody that's listening, that's watching, hey, thank you for staying with us here on this podcast, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
All right.